Hi! Within this section, we're going to focus on website reconnaissance. And as we have discussed previously, reconnaissance is the process of gathering passive information. So we're going to try to gather some basic information about websites without alerting the system administrator at all. So now if you're ready, let's get started.
Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to set our computer up for Metasploitable machine once more because that's what we're going to use in the web penetration testing sections. In fact, within this section, we're going to work with real websites because now we're doing just reconnaissance. We are gathering passive information in this section. But in the following sections, we're going to search for vulnerabilities and ways to exploit them, so we have to use Metasploitable. And you can think that why don't we use real website examples in order to have a hacking session? That wouldn't be practical because if we try to actually search for vulnerability within a known website without having permission, that would be illegal. Now I can set up a website with known vulnerabilities and maybe you can practice on that website, and that wouldn't be practical as well because somebody will hack into it and delete all the files and just go back and no one else would be using that website anymore. So for that purposes, we're going to use Metasploitable, and every hacker in their early career starts learning about this web penetration testing with Metasploitable, so we will be on the right track. And we can actually learn a lot of concepts, a lot of vulnerabilities and exploits using Metasploitable because they give us very good tools. So after you run Metasploitable, remember the login user is msfadmin and the password is msfadmin as well. So just come here to your Metasploitable machine and say msfadmin and msfadmin one more time, and it will start running Metasploitable for you. Now our Kali Linux is already running as well. If I run ifconfig in here, I will see this has an IP address of 10.0.2.5. Of course, both Kali Linux and Metasploitable is running on the same NAT network. So we did this before, we know how to do this. This has an IP of 10.0.2.15 and they can see each other, and we can confirm it by pinging each other from 10.0.2.5 and 10.0.2.15. So this can ping the Metasploitable machine, and also it isn't necessary at this moment, but Metasploitable can ping Kali Linux as well. So they definitely see each other. Now we are done with the setup actually, but let me run the Firefox and show you the websites that we will be working on throughout the next sections. So if you go to your browser and search for 10.0.2.5 or your own Metasploitable IP, you will see this dashboard. So Metasploitable 2 has some kind of websites built in, and we're going to be using DVWA and Matilde in this case. If you click here, it will ask you for a username, and the username is admin and the password is password. Okay? After that, it will take you to this website, and we have some sections in here like file inclusion, command execution. These are known vulnerabilities and we get to practice them in this website thanks to the Metasploitable. But you have to come here to DVWA security, and you should change the security level to low because of course we are going to start with basics. After you submit that, you're ready to use DVWA during all the lectures. If anytime you need to restart the Metasploitable machine, then don't forget to come here to DVWA security and change it to low once again. So if you go to Matilda, this is again a website, and we will see some other vulnerabilities in this website as well, and we're going to use them in the following sections. And as I said before, we will be doing reconnaissance in this section, so we will be using the real website examples. So let's stop here and start doing that in the next lecture. Hi, within this section, we're going to focus on finding some passive information, gathering passive information, so doing reconnaissance as I explained before. So we're going to use Maltego one more time like we did in the social engineering section. If you missed the social engineering section for some reason, and if you missed the usage of Maltego, it really doesn't matter, because I will show you how to install it and how to use it one more time. So open your Kali Linux. You can click here to open Maltego. If the Maltego is not installed on your Kali Linux, you can always run apt-get install Maltego C in order to get the Maltego. Okay, it will install it, and then you can search this within applications, or it will appear in here. You can start it by clicking on this icon. So once you open it, it will ask you for your sign up information, like create a username or a password. Please do that. If you don't do that, it won't work properly. After you do that, we're going to create our first project and start gathering information from a certain real website. So after you log in, you have to create a new graph. And we have seen Maltego before. I'm not going to spend much time explaining it one more time, because it won't be fair to the people who watched the social engineering section. All you have to do is just click on this button and create a new graph. So after you create a graph, drag this website entity to your graph, okay? And actually we have done this before. Maybe you remember you have to click on this entity and change the target website. So I'm going to use a website called travelersgifts.com. Maybe you can do this for other websites as well, because we're not going to do anything harmful in this lesson. And you can do this with travelersgifts.com, or you can do this with unicornitems.com. All these websites belong to me. I use them for test purposes. And after doing that, you can click here to all transforms in order to start this gathering information process in Maltego. And as before, once we start getting results, it will appear on the graph with arrow connections like this. So we already have the domain name, and we already have the IP address, and we will get much more information as before. So we're getting some domains and maybe some subdomains. And don't worry, by the way, we will use other tools rather than Maltego, and you know how to run Maltego, but this is just a refreshment video. Just think of this like that. And we're going to learn how to use online tools as well in the following lectures in order to get some different information from what we got in Maltego. So here, now we have the overview and we have our graph. Let me start exploring these results and try to see if we have anything useful that we can later use in our penetration testing. So if you drag this a little bit left, we can start from the beginning, okay? So let me zoom in a little bit actually so we can see it better. Now, as you can see, we have the IP address, we have the domain name, we already had it. And let me go up a little bit. So this is the website itself. So let me see what else do we got here rather than IP address. Maybe you can try to get some more information from IP address as well. Later on we will see how to do that, because in the same IP address, in the same server, there might be more than one website, right? So even if you cannot find any vulnerability on travelersgifts.com, you can find some other vulnerabilities in other websites on the same IP address. So if you manage to hack some of the other websites, then you can hack into the travelersgifts.com as well. Later on we will see how to do that. So in here we have a Google API usage. So this website uses maps.google APIs, so it definitely has some maps built in. So let me browse a little bit. Okay, so we have this plugin, Curly plugin. So maybe we can try to Google this plugin and see what it does, and if this plugin has a certain vulnerability, we should try to penetrate into that via that plugin. Here we have SW.org. This most probably uses WordPress, and as you can see, it actually uses the WordPress.org, so we know this is a WordPress website. And I don't think we have any more useful information, but I believe this is enough for right now, because you know this is a WordPress and this uses some certain plugins. You can search for that. For example, if you can get the WordPress version of this website, you can search and see if WordPress has a vulnerability in that specific version. In fact, since most of the websites use WordPress, we can find a lot of databases regarding WordPress vulnerabilities online. So you can easily see which version has which vulnerabilities and how you can find an exploit for them easily by Googling it out. And hackers actually dig in WordPress. They really try hard to get into the WordPress, because right now I believe like 60 or 70% of the websites in the world uses WordPress. So we have a WordPress scan as well built in the Kali Linux, but I'm not going to deal with that. Rather, I'm going to show you what you can find online by simply Googling out the results for WordPress vulnerabilities. So let me open my Firefox browser in my Kali Linux. Of course, you can do that from your host machine as well, since we are not going to use any tools rather than online search here. So this is WordPress exploit search. And as you can see, we have millions of results. So we have an exploit database result in here, and we have a lot of exploit database results usually, and most of them are related to WordPress. As you can see, if you click on one of them, we have an injection in here in exploit database, and this is how an exploit is coded actually. And we have a lot of other WordPress vulnerabilities in here as well. You can see the details and you can see the versions related to that exploit in here. So I'm going to stop here because I just wanted to show you how you can use Maltego to gather general information about a target website, and you have to do it before you go on and test some vulnerabilities and some exploits on a website. And we're going to see other ways of gathering information, other ways, other means of reconnaissance in the next lectures. Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to see the various online tools that we can use within our information gathering process. So I'm going to open my browser and I'm going to search for information gathering tools, website information gathering tools online. And don't worry, I'm going to share the names of the tools that we're going to be using, but it would be more structural if we follow a list, if we find a good information gathering tool list and just use the tools that has been supplied for us. In here, in the securityedits.com, actually we have a good list. As you can see, we have this Netcraft, we have this uGetSignal, archive.org, and robots.txt. And we're going to see the usage of these various online tools. For instance, this Netcraft is a very popular tool, and it has a user-friendly interface, it has a good dashboard, and it gives the general detailed information about a web hosting, and it assesses the risk factor, the vulnerabilities of that website as well. So let me open that website and show you how it's used. So if you open the Netcraft and look here, it's actually netcraft.com. You can directly go to your browser and just write netcraft.com, and it will ask you to give a URL here. Okay? I'm going to search for the same website, travelersgifts.com. You can search for another website as well. This wouldn't be illegal, don't worry. We're just getting the general information open to public. So here we see the site title and the description of that website. If we go below, we can find the IP address, and we can see the netbook owner. So this website is registered to godaddy.com, and we can see the DNS admin and reverse DNS connections, reverse DNS information as well. Maybe you realize that this is a little bit detailed compared to the Maltego. Right now we see the hosting history, for instance. If this website is hosted on different servers throughout different occasions, then we can see the logs. Here we have the Netcraft risk rating. So this website has a 1 out of 10 risk, so it doesn't contain any vulnerabilities at this point, I think. So if I go down, if I scroll down a little bit, I can see the web trackers, okay, Google, Amazon, and some others are crawling this web page, and here is the information that would be useful for us. For example, this website uses PHP. So if we manage to hack into this website using any of the vulnerabilities that we will be seeing in the following lectures and sections, then it will be possible for us to run PHP code in that website to have a session back in our Kali Linux, for example. We definitely know that this PHP code will be executed on that server because this server supports PHP. So there are a lot of ways to run reverse shell codes on servers, like with PHP or Python or Bash or any other scripting languages. In this case, I would have gone with PHP for the first choice. And in here, I can see that this runs JavaScript on the client side. Okay, we have some client-side scripting frameworks like jQuery, and we have a blog in here, so it uses WordPress technology. Again, we can search for WordPress vulnerabilities if we know the WordPress version. So here we have seen that this site actually uses an e-commerce plugin as well. So this is called WooCommerce. Maybe it has some vulnerabilities. Maybe we can dig deep into that plugin as well. If we scroll down, we see the WordPress one more time. It has an RSS feed. It has some certain character encoding, of course. And I believe it's all here. So we are done with this analyzing. As you can see, it gives us much more information compared to the Maltego, at least with compared to the Maltego free version. So we can use this Netcraft when we try to do reconnaissance before we go and do some pen testing. So I'm going to stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to continue seeing other online tools that I had mentioned before. Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to continue discovering the other online tools that we have found before. So the second one is uGetSignal.com. So this tool will allow us to run a reverse IP check on our website. So what does it mean? It means that we're going to be finding other domain names that are hosted on the same server with our target website. So I mentioned this before, right? So let me open it and show you how it's used. So this is yougetsignal.com, and you can directly go to your browser and just say yougetsignal.com, and it will ask you for a target website, and I will give the travelersgifts.com one more time. So it will check to see if there are other domains on the same server as well. And as you can see, there are a lot of them, okay? So travelersgifts.com shares their server with these domains as well. So what does it mean? As I explained before, they're on the same computer. So if we manage to hack one of these, it is possible that we can hack into the others as well. Of course, it is possible that they have some implementations of security in their system blocking this browsing from one website to another within the same hosting, within the same computer, but it's worth to give a shot, because if you cannot find any vulnerabilities on travelersgifts.com, maybe you can find other vulnerabilities in one of these websites. So it makes sense for a hacker to try and find some vulnerability in one of these websites and hack into those, and then try to make his or her way up to the travelersgifts.com using the same server, because they are located in the same computer eventually. And of course, the big websites, the corporation websites, do not share any servers because of this, okay? So you have to make your website safe, but also you have to make your server safe as well. And you cannot be certain of your security if you share some domains on the same server. Thus, most of the big companies use dedicated servers for their websites, for their databases, okay? And the yougetsignal.com is not the only tool that we can gather this information. There are a lot of free tools supplying that information to us, and actually, with an easy way, we can get this from bing.com as well. Yes, you can find these websites through search engines by using a reverse DNS lookup and nothing further. So let me show you an example of how it's done on bing.com. So open your browser and try to go to bing.com. So let me come here and say bing.com. And in here, we're not going to search for a regular query, but rather we're going to search for this IP address. Okay, so copy your IP address, and in here you have to write IP colon and space, then paste the IP address of your hosting of your server. So if you search like this, it will display all the results belonging to that IP address. So you can see the various websites in here with this search as well. So let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to continue discovering the other tools for information gathering purposes as well. Hi! Within this lecture we're going to cover another online tool called WhoIs Lookup, okay? And in here, in our list, actually we have the archive.org as next step. But it's very simple. Let me just show you how it's used, then you can try to discover on your own as well. What this website does actually is taking the snapshot of the website and archiving them. So if you search a website through here, you can see the previous snapshots, previous states of that website throughout the history. Of course, if they are logged anyway. So let me see if travelersgifts.com really has any snapshot dating back. It said that it is saved 6 times between April 2001 and December 2014, and if I try to click one of these dates, it will try and show me the snapshot of that date belonging to that website. And as you can see, the resource is not found, and I believe in 2001 this website wasn't even there. So I'm not going to spend so much time on archive.org. This robots.txt is very important, and we're going to see how to use it within the next lecture, because we can actually use this robot.txt in our penetration testing and in some capture the flag solutions as well. So I'm going to have another lecture dedicated just for that robots.txt. But for right now, I'm going to show you another tool called WhoIs Lookup. So if you search for WhoIs Lookup, you will see a lot of results. And I'm going to click on the first one. You can try other ones as well. So if we give any domain in this WhoIs Lookup, it will show us some registration information regarding to that domain. So let me show you what I mean. I believe I have to give these words as well in order to prove that I'm not a robot. And after that, it will give me some information regarding travelersgifts.com. And as you can see, these are some general registration information. Here we have the contact information. So the registration is private in this case because I made it so, but I can see that this is registered through godaddy.com, and I can gather some telephone and address information regarding this registration. And I can see the named servers, I can see some important dates, and I can see some expiration date as well. So this will be expired in 1st of May in this year, okay, 2019 I mean. And I have this WhoIs record showing me the logs of the registration process. So you can gather some general information about the company if you're trying to do a very comprehensive pen testing. I believe this would be a good starting point to gather information and take some notes. So WhoIs Lookup is the simplest tool that you can try to gather information about a website online. And I believe we are now done discovering these online tools. Now I'm going to stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to discuss how we can use that robots.txt in order to have a good useful information to use in our penetration tests. Hi! Within this lecture we're going to discuss how we can use robots.txt to use in our penetration tests. And I'm going to show you this example in Metasploitable, so you better open your Metasploitable and Kali Linux on a NAT network. And robots.txt is used for instructing crawlers what to do when they land on the website. And by crawlers, I mean the crawlers the search engines or other websites use. So Google uses crawlers in the web, so they send some robots to crawl all over the web and log the web information to their database so that people can find websites when they search in Google. And we can tell these crawlers how to behave when they land our website by using robots.txt, because crawlers will be looking for robots.txt when they crawl on our web page. And this robots.txt can contain some sensitive information sometimes, because they can instruct crawlers not to look at some certain web pages, and we can just try to go into those web pages to see what the website admin is trying to hide from crawlers. Okay? So there is a perfect example in Matilda, and I'm going to show some tools to uncover this robots.txt and then later analyze this content of robots.txt to gather some useful information. So let me copy this link, Matilda link, and let me go back to my Kali Linux terminal, and I'm going to use a tool called derp. And if you run derp, it will show you the instructions of usage. So this tool allows us to run a word list attack against a website. So let me show you by example. If you run derp and paste the URL, it will run this word list attack, and it will find some common pages and URLs that are hidden from the users in a website. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by analyzing these results. As you can see, we have something called Matilde/footer, Matilde/header, so Matilde/index, and maybe it doesn't show a way to go into these folders and files in the web page, but we can find them by searching against this word list. And as you can see, it uses this user shared derp word list common.txt in order to run this word list, and you can supply your own word list to derp as well, but I believe what we have is good enough for us because it found a lot of hidden URLs. So maybe this robots.txt is not shown on the main page, but we can see they exist in here, right? So derp is used for that purpose. I can see some login pages, I can see some notes, for example. Actually, let me open these notes and see the content if we can find anything hidden in here. Let me paste and go. As you can see, we have some usage instructions. Most probably we don't have access, we don't have any menus directing to that link in the Matilde folder, in the Matilde web page. But since we found this, we could see the content of it. So here I have PHP myadmin and I have robots.txt. So let me copy this robots.txt and paste it in here. Okay, so choose everything, delete everything, and say paste and go. And here we have the instructions for crawlers. It says that you cannot go to passwords, you cannot go to config.inc, you cannot go to JavaScript. So since admin doesn't want crawlers to go into those websites, maybe we can check to see if we can reach to those folders, if we can reach to those files, and try to get the information out of that files. And of course, if a web administrator properly configures their website, we shouldn't see them. But sometimes they miss these things, and it is easy to get this information by just running them on the URL. Okay, what do I mean? I can just take this passwords here, okay, and copy it and try to use JavaScript as well, for instance, or documentation as well, but passwords seems to be promising, so I'm going to copy this and I'm going to try and paste this at the end of this Matilde with a slash and hit enter. As you can see, it took us to a folder where I have an accounts.txt. If I click on it, I can get the admin account and the admin password. So in real life, of course, this isn't that simple. You cannot reach the admin password just by looking into robots.txt. But I have come across so many CTF challenges or so many penetration tests that actually involved usage of robots.txt. This lecture is very important for you to understand. So let me stop here. And within the next lecture, we're going to discuss how we can get the subdomains of a certain web page as well. Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to see how we can get the subdomains of a web page. And this is no different than using derp tool in order to get the hidden URLs or hidden web pages related to a certain website. But this time, we're going to search for subdomains. And this is more important in a way because sometimes people, the administrators, use subdomains in order to test some new stuff. And by subdomains, I mean like this mail.google.com, so test.google.com or maps.google.com. So this is a subdomain. As I was explaining, big companies like Google can use some test domains, subdomains like test.google.com in order to test some new features. And they generally forget to implement some security features in those test subdomains because they're not open to public yet, but we can discover them using some tools and try to hack into that website using that subdomains. And for that purpose, I'm going to use a tool called Subroot. Of course, I have found this by searching Subdomain Finder GitHub. It is that simple. I'm going to git clone this tool into my Kali Linux and later on use the documentation, read the usage instructions in order to run some brute force attack on a certain website to gather information about their hidden or not hidden subdomains. So I believe right now you know what to do next, right? Because we did it so many times before. We have used Git repositories to clone this into our opt directory, and that's what I'm going to do in this lecture. So this subroot is brought to us by the Rook. I'm going to show this link. I'm going to share this link in the resources of this lecture as well, don't worry. But for right now, I'm going to go to my terminal and I'm going to find my opt directory as usual. As you can see, we have the previous tools that we have downloaded before. Now I'm going to copy this URL from here and I'm going to run this with git clone command. And if I hit enter, it will just download all the files and folders related to this subroot repository. And it's taking a while, but it will be done in less than like a minute, okay? And after it's done, if you run ls, you will see the subroot folder in here. Just cd into that folder, and if you run ls, you will see the subroot.py. Some of the times you have to install the tools, and other times you can just run this subroot or any Python file. And how do you know that? You have to read the instructions, of course. As you can see, it says it is easy to use. All we have to do is just run this subroot.py and the URL that we are targeting. So we can test this with multiple domains as well. As you can see below, subroot.py, google.com, gmail.com, blogger.com. And let me test this by running this into Python 3, Python 3 subroot.py. And as you can see, it actually says to use /, but I'm just going to use Python 3 because later on we're going to learn about Python and we're going to write our tools with Python, and it's easier to just stick this convention. So Python 3 subroot.py travelersgifts.com and hit enter. It may take some time before this tool starts and gather the information. If it doesn't work for you, you can always hit Ctrl+C on your keyboard and then try one more time. But I started gaining this information. I started gathering this information from travelersgifts.com, and as you can see, it started to discover some subdomains as well. So right now I have tcp.travelersgifts.com. I don't know what to do with that. Let me wait a little bit more to gather more information. And I believe we will have some more in here. Like, yeah, we have admin.travelersgifts.com, we have mail, webmail, cpanel, and other stuff as well. So we have found a way to get the subdomains out of a web page. And this can be used in various ways. You can try to go on to that subdomain, you can try to find some vulnerabilities in that subdomains as well. And up until now, we tried to gather information. We didn't do any hacking, we didn't gather any information about a vulnerability or an exploit. So we're going to stop here, and starting from the next section, we're going to focus on attacks on websites.
Hi. Now within this section, you have learned how to use Maltego, Netcraft, DNS Lookups, WhoIs Lookups, and robots.txt as well. You have learned how to gather subdomains with cross-checking them with word lists. Okay? Now you're ready to move on to the next section, where we're going to actively discover some vulnerabilities regarding websites once more.